Hello and welcome to this field tutorial. I'm Renaud from Mountains, and today we're going to have a look at the freshly released 3.0 version of Field. This is Field's website and its release notes. So this is all the new stuff in 3.0. As you can see here, there is a lot. Of course, in this video, we won't go over each and every new item, but I will try to show you all the best new stuff on things that you can integrate in your workflow and will hopefully make you happier. So let's get started. Before we start, I just wanted to brag. It doesn't happen often, so just wanted to go with that. The Unity Awards 2021 nominees have been announced, and if you scroll down, you will see that in the Best Artistic Tool, that's Phil over there, and Asset Store Publisher of the Year, that's Mountains. Extremely happy with that, of course, humbled. And I would like to take this occasion to thank everyone who's been using Mountains products. It's been a blast. I've been doing that since 2015 now, and it's been extremely exciting to see all the new stuff, all the cool things that people have built using this product. Super humbling experience. And the votes, they stop, I think, today. So maybe take 5 minutes, go vote for Phil, ideally, more mountains, and any other assets in game that you like. There is a lot of cool stuff on that page. And then maybe come back to this video. All right, so let's dive in and look at the new stuff. I am right now in the field template damage demo. It's a new demo showcasing templating and something we will maybe touch upon in a different video. But basically that's it. That's the demo. You click on the cubes, they go. All right, and I'm going to use that scene to show you some of the new stuff. And let's start with the new player. So previously, if you wanted to add feedbacks to your game, you would have gone add component MMFPlayer, and you would have added maybe a camera shake and a destination transform and so on and so on. Just feedback like that. But you can see here, there's a warning that says that basically MMFPlayer is getting replaced and there's a new kid in town and it's called MMFPlayer. So I'm going to delete this thing and I'm going to create a new object. Go MMFP, pick the first one, MMFPlayer. And you can see that it looks a lot like the previous one, right? But it's a brand new architecture. Completely new classes are powering this thing. It doesn't use mono behaviors under the hood like MMFPlayer did. This is all using serial as reference, so it makes it more robust. The new system is much more optimized, both in editor and at runtime. For example, let me show you what happens when I select a feedback. You can see that, well, a new player. This is instant on some versions of Unity, some computers, it could take a while to load just the inspector. This is now super fast. And the cool thing is it works just like the old one used to. So if you knew MMFPlayer already, this is known territory. It comes with a few new cool features that the old system doesn't have. And moving forward, I will be only maintaining and adding new feedbacks to that system. But the two will coexist for, I don't know how long exactly, but maybe a year. And depending on user feedback, we'll adjust. There's no reason really to remove the old system. If you're still using it, you can use it. They can just coexist. So the way it works is you add feedbacks, and I'm going to start with this question stretch one, and you can see I've added a new feedback, and here we have a new icon that says basically there's a warning. So I unfold this and it says, oh, this feedback requires that a question stretch target be set, and indeed this one isn't set. I see the warning sign here, so I need to bind a target. So I'm doing it, and I put this cube, so this cube over there, and that's going to be my target for today. And I'm going to go back to my player here. So there was feedbacks where you would add feedback. Now there is a MMFPlayer. It plays feedback. It's the sequence player, and you add MMF feedback to it. Classes that inherit from that. Basically, just add MMFPlayer to your scene, and you will be good. You also don't have to modify your old code. This inherits from feedbacks. So everywhere you had feedbacks hooks, you don't have to modify them. And I'll show you later how you can convert to the new system, because it's a one-click thing. And just to finish that one, I'm just going to go and press play here. And, every time I play, I squash and stretch this thing at the top. The cool thing is I can easily change the axis on which I'm doing it. That's one of the new feedbacks, by the way. And of course, I could remap that to 4, for example, in which case, it would squash and stretch much more. Let me try to go back to X2YZ. Yeah, all right. And let's do it. City. All right. And I've just made a few changes here. In the past, I would have had to write them down, basically, or maybe take a screenshot and copy them back. But now I can just press that button, keep play mode changes, exit, and all my changes remain. And that's true for the changes I made here, but I could have added new feedbacks. I could have removed some, reordered them. Everything just stays there now. So very powerful feature. Just lets you press play, do your changes inside the feedback, and you could theoretically even modify multiple feedbacks as long as you turn keep play mode changes on while you're doing it. And when you exit, all of these will basically save their settings. So very, very powerful stuff. I'm also going to show you how you can convert a feedback, and I'm going to make another video entirely dedicated to that new player. So if you're interested to know more, feel free to go and check it. Some of the cool new stuff, we have these new inspector groups that basically just look good and make things very organized. What else do we have? It lets you make presets, so you can just basically recall an entire stack of feedbacks. You can make template. There's the setup required thing that I showed. There's the extra info here. You can see that it's a damage cube on this, and now at a glance, I know that this is a squash and stretch targeting damage cube, taking 0.2 seconds. So fairly good quality of life improvements. Just gonna go here quickly show you maybe in the bounce demo. So this is the bounce demo. Been there for a long time now. And if I go and pick, let's say, the chart feedback, you can see this is using the old feedback system. I could keep using it, it's fine. Not going anywhere anytime soon. But if I expand this, I can just press convert to MMFPlayer, and you can see a bunch of logs saying everything went fine. If you don't see anything red, it's good. You clear that, forget about it. And now when you press play, and then that play button here, it just works. But you can see I'm getting a warning here. This is a temporary one, unless you're watching this video in its first 15 days. Hopefully you won't see that again. There is right now a bug with Cinemachine, and the Cinemachine feedback had to be turned off. There is, however, a fallback. I didn't bother modifying the demos that use it, because if all goes well, that bug will be solved during the month of March 2022. But if you're in a hurry, absolutely need Cinemachine Impulse, you can go camera, Cinemachine Impulse source, not the Impulse basic one, but the source. And what this does is it's going to let you target a impulse source component, which you can add on the feedback or any object. And then what you do is you take this, put it here, set it up like you would an impulse usually, and that's it. That's the fallback for now. Hopefully the actual impulse feedback will be fixed soon enough. All right, so we've seen the squash and stretch feedback as part of the new feedbacks, and I'm going to go over the other new ones later on, but I wanted to show you this demo. This is the squash and stretch demo, and it is a cool one. I like it. So it lets you basically drive around, so using your keyboard arrows, and you can see that the car squashes and stretches as they drive. And that's also true of pretty much everything in that scene. This house basically squashes and stretches as it moves on the path. The trees are bouncing, these cars are going crazy and squash and stretching as well. And here we have 3 cars. And you can see they don't really behave the same. They all move on the same basically path, but this one doesn't have squash and stretch. This one does, and this one has squash and stretch and the spring, which means that as it moves, it expands on the motion vector, and as it stops, it's still a bit bouncy, while this one just moves but doesn't have that spring. And the cool thing is there's a single component handling all the squash and stretch in that scene, and it is, believe it or not, it's called Squash and Stretch. I know it's extremely original, but that's how it is. And so if I look at, I'm not even sure, I'm on my own car right now, but that's going to be fun to select. That was actually a good catch. So for example, here I have this car who's moving left and right, and you can see it has a top level where basically there's a script making it move on a path. Then we have this sort of empty object that holds the squash and stretch, and then we have the model. And you will want that hierarchy when you build things. And this lets you tweak how it's going to squash and stretch, basically. For example, you could change the scale, how much it's going to rescale, and let's go with maybe 5 and 5. And you can see that now, as it moves, it stretches much more than it would before. We can change the damping to maybe 1. And you can see that now it's way less springy than it used to be. And if I make it 0.1, then it is maybe too springy. So we can tweak these values to our liking, and this is already a bit better. And we can change the speed of things. So this is a much faster spring. We can make it slower. There's a lot of settings you can tweak. There's a curve even. So enjoy, have fun with that. This demo showcases a bunch of different settings. It's a nice way, if you have an object, let's say you have cars in your city, aren't these better cars? I would say they are. But it's just a nice way to providing life. Of course, this demo is maybe over the top, some people would say, but if you have balls bouncing, if you have whatever really that needs a bit of juice, that's a nice way of doing it. It costs virtually nothing in terms of performance. It's fairly cheap, and it's just, that's free life. You don't even have to animate it. Just you already have movement in your game. Add that. Now it's better movement. Squash and stretch. And while we're on the topic of stuff that you can add for cheap in your game, let me show you the Parallax UI demo. So again, a new demo scene. This one, if you press play, it has this illustration I did for my band 10 or so years ago now. I'm just reusing it, and as you can see, when I move the mouse around, these are all UI elements and they will move in Parallax, basically. The cool thing is, likewise, very simple system. You can see if I go into my scene, that's my UI. Let me try and move this thing around. And you can see each of the layers is separate, like so. So all of these are separate layers, but they're just basically images in a canvas. There's nothing to them. And somewhere in that scene here, I have a Parallax UI component, and you can see it's basically a table. And in that table, I have different elements. And for each element, I can define an amplitude and a speed. So I've organized them neatly, and basically you can see that when I move the mouse, the foreground layers move faster than the others, but you could decide on different rules. And what's nice about it is that you can just make changes on that single component, pilot them all, and let's try something very dumb, but you can see that when I move now, the background trees over there are moving much faster. And I could, sorry, they're moving further. And if I change that speed value here to make it, let's say 10, you can see that now they are moving also faster. So that's a simple way of setting up UI Parallax. And I would say something, again, very cheap to do. Like, it's going to take you 5-10 minutes to set up something like that. But imagine this is your start screen. This is really cool. And for not a lot of effort, you get a nice effect. Also to note, this works for mouse, but it also works for gyroscope. So if you're on mobile, you do that same thing, just change mouse to gyroscope here. And as you rotate your phone, your actual device, this is gonna move, giving you a nice like 3D in a box effect. So also something very cheap to do. Doesn't take a lot of effort, as long as you already have, of course, a menu or a scene or something that has layers. And there's also a script mode and an API that lets you basically send that position. So you could also imagine that, I don't know, as the character moves left and right, you're modifying that parallax. A cool tool, simple, efficient. I like it. Now let's move on to another demo, and let's see some of the new stuff in terms of feedback. So you will notice that previously you would have MMFeedback's demo and MMFeedback's minimal demo. There is a new one, MMFPlayer demo. So as you can guess, it's the same thing, but it demonstrates all of these feedbacks using the new MMFPlayer. And there are some new ones. We have, what do we have? The haptics. So yeah, that's a big one. Feel 3.0, it introduces Nice Vibrations 4.0, and it ships with it. This is a big release. Massive work done by the local team on that one. Very good stuff, and it also comes with new feedbacks for Feel. Before in MMFeedbacks, you would have one haptic feedback. This time I've chosen to split them into multiple feedbacks. And we have the preset, emphasis, continuous clip, and a control extra one. So let's have a look. It's hard to demonstrate haptics. It's vibrations on your phone, it's rumble on a gamepad, and it's fairly subtle. It's something that you have to experience holding a device. So what I'm going to try is put my gamepad on top of my mic. It might sound terrible. I don't know. I've turned the sound off so you don't hear like the beep of the button. And I'm going to put it like that and see how it works. So this is a preset, and it is fairly subtle. I'm going to go and select screen so I can show you at the same time what it does. So here we go, preset. This is a simple one. It lets you pick between ready-made presets, light, haptic, medium, and so on. In all of the new haptic feedbacks, you will find a new common settings panel in which you can force a certain gamepad ID. You can decide not to play in certain conditions and so on. Next, we have the emphasis feedback, and it's right here. And this one lets us trigger what used to be called a transient in iterations, now called emphasis. And it's like a very short haptic. And using that feedback, you can randomize the amplitude between 0 and 1. And of course, you can define your own bounds. Same thing for the frequency. So frequency and amplitude are what you can play on. I'm gonna hold this. And so this is a full amplitude, full frequency. And of course, you could lower the frequency like that, and it's a bit different. And you could lower the amplitude, and it's now more subtle. Next, we have the continuous one, and this one is very, very interesting. It's basically the same thing. You can control amplitude and frequency, but now you can also control duration. So instead of being a very short 0.1, 0.2 seconds maybe vibration, now it's longer. And if you check this, use real-time modulation, you can now define your own curves for both the amplitude and the frequency, and combined with the fact that you can randomize them, that gives you a lot of control. So in this case, I'm going to press play, and over 2 seconds, you're going to feel a vibration that increases, decreases. I have no idea how it's going to sound in the video, but it gives you a lot of control, and without going into too much trouble, you can sort of do something that matches whatever it is you want to convey with the haptics. And last, we have the haptic clip, and this is brand new, and this lets you specify a haptic clip. It comes loaded with a lot of them that you can use, and for example, this is the dice one, and it sort of simulates throwing dice on a table. So that's it for the new haptic stuff. There is one last haptic feedback that I forgot about, and it is the control one. And this one lets you basically trigger orders at a global scale, like enabling, disabling haptics, adjusting the haptic level. And this would let you, like basically apply a multiplier to all the intensity of all your haptics, initialize and release. You can learn more about these in Nice Operations documentation. While we are here, let's see some of the other new feedbacks. We have now a Text Mesh Pro Alpha, in addition to all the ones that existed. This is basically what color would let you do, but this is just for alpha. You will find the same thing in UI for images. Now you have image that lets you control color and alpha, and image alpha just for alpha. What else? In game object, I think we now have the collider and collider 2D feedbacks, and these are very simple ones. You can see that this one requires that a collider be set, and it's going to let you enable, disable, toggle active, and do the same thing for trigger. So now you can easily turn a collider into, is trigger true or false. What else? There is the interesting shader global. So shader global, what it does is it lets you change global shader properties, and you do that by defining what property you want to target. It can be color, float, and so on. You type in the property. You can also access it via ID, and there you define, what you want the new float to be, basically, and that's going to be set. That's going to change the shader property, the shader global property. So if you have shaders that read that property, well, that's going to have an impact. There is what else? There's the MM game event one, and this one I think should be in events. This is a cool one. If you're using, it mostly makes sense if you're using the Corgi engine or the TopDown engine or Infinite Runner engine, and this lets you, from a feedback, trigger MM game events. What else? Oh, I can show you the playlist one. Let's do that. So as you can probably tell, this is very much improvised, but I think it's as good a way as any to show you all the new stuff. So I'm going to show you the playlist thing. I'm creating a new object here, and I'm going to add a MM playlist component to it. And this lets me basically sequence songs. So I'm going to create a child object to that and add a audio source to it. And I'm going to call that AS1, get that, AS2, AS3. And now I have 3 audio sources. Or I can just put some music on these. So I'm going to use the block demo music on that one. Or I'm going to use the strike music on that one, and I'm going to use the wheel music on this other one. No, the wheel music is super loud. I'm going to use the brass music. And I'm going to drag these into my playlist here. And you can see that for each of these tracks, I can define a volume modifier, I can add a delay, or I can define a crossfade duration between the songs, change the pitch, change the stereo, and so on. So I think I may, yeah, okay. And you don't want them to play on awake because this is messy. Instead, the playlist is gonna play on start on its own. It's gonna play endlessly, and I don't want a random order, but I could have one. I can also apply a volume multiplier. And so if I press play, you can hear the first sound. I can pause and play at any time. So the first song has started playing, and that's the blob music here. And I'm going to press the play next song button. And you can see that it nicely crossfades. And so I'm doing it manually here, but of course I could just leave it be, and it would play the entirety of song 1, crossfade to song 2, and to song 3, and so on. So it's a nice way to have just background music playing around in your level. And the cool thing is, because this is an audio source, you can also specify a mixer group. I don't know what happens if I do it at runtime. Nothing. Cool. This, of course, lets you target the Sound Manager as well. So all the settings from the Sound Manager would apply to that. That's also neat. And to back to the beginning, because feedbacks are really cool, you can now go MMFPlayer, and I don't want to do that at runtime. Actually, that's a dumb idea. So MMFPlayer, I can go audio MM playlist, and there is this new feedback playlist, which lets us basically command the playlist from a feedback. So here I'm gonna go with play next because that's the most easy to understand one, I guess. And so when I play that feedback, we are playing on next track, and if I do it again, and of course this is going to use the crossfade settings that you've put on the playlist itself. So yeah, cool, simple helper to have playlists and a feedback to go with it. So that's new, that's nice. A few more things that I wanted to show you in terms of feedbacks. So for example, if we go to the field duck demo, for some of the scenes, not all of them, I've added comparisons. So you've got the scene with feedbacks, and that gives you, like, the entire scene, and the scene without feedbacks. And so if you are curious, you can just disable one, enable the other, press play, and you will be able to play the mini game of sorts that is in each and every scene. But this one doesn't have feedback. It is not very good. And if I enable the other one, let's play again. This one does have feedbacks, is better. While we are in this scene, I'm gonna go ahead and show you one of the new features. So let's say, let's say this feedback. So I'm gonna convert it to a MMFPlayer. You can see that I'm getting I'm getting an error saying, it couldn't find the haptics feedback. That's what I explained earlier. We used to have like one haptic feedback, now there are 4. So that's one of the few things that can be auto-converted. But you could, of course, like you've lost a haptic, you can just go like this, preset, and boom, you fixed the problem. Everything else got converted, and if I just press play again, everything still works. So there is one feedback called, let me find it, the feedbacks player here. And what this thing does is it can let you play feedbacks in an area around it, like if you put the number of feedbacks next to each other, maybe you have a bunch of rabbits in a field, and when one rabbit plays its feedback, you want other rabbits around it to play their stuff. But you can also do play target feedback. And so what this does, it's pretty cool, and that's new. It's gonna take another feedback as another player, MM feedbacks or MMFPlayer as a source, and that's gonna impact its duration here. So I have the landing feedback, and its total duration is 0.63 seconds here, but the denied is 0.23. And let's make that one longer by changing the duration of that thing. So 1.5, I don't know. So now we have a total duration of 1.6 at the top. If I go back here, you can see that it changed. And so what this lets us do is I can do something like this, where I could add a holding pose at 0.2 seconds maybe. I move that over there, and now when I press play, and notice I'm just playing with that feedback. I'm not touching the landing feedback here. And when I press play, it's going to play the landing one, wait, and then do the rest. And that is pretty cool, because that lets you split a big sequence into multiple ones, and you don't have to do any code to sequence them. You can just use feedbacks player and target another player. And earlier, to make it more obvious, I went to the landing feedback here, and I changed the duration of that position feedback by making it 1.5 seconds. I could make it 10 seconds, and now I have a 10 seconds feedback at the top. It's 10.10 because I think I must have a delay somewhere. Maybe, where is it? Yeah, I have an initial delay here, so now it's 10 seconds, all right. But let's say for some reason I don't want that feedback to that feedback's duration to impact the total duration. I could just go here and say contribute to total duration and uncheck that. And you can see I go back to 0.63. So it doesn't make much sense in that specific context for that position thing, but it's something that can be very useful when you're playing with audio. So let's say I have a MF Sound Manager sound here, and I pick a clip. I'm picking at random, so not so much at random. Maybe if I look at the images here, I can see sort of the spectrum of the sound. What happens sometimes is that sounds, they have a long silence at the end, and you don't want that silence to actually contribute, and maybe that coin sound is actually not that that's not, maybe not 0.3 seconds. So I can just say, timing here, don't contribute to the total duration, and in this case, it won't wait for that to finish the player sequence. And I could go on about the new quality of life improvements. There are a lot. Go check the release notes, you will see them all. I'm going to show you one last one, and that is the shader controller. So that's an old feedback. It's been there for a while. Super powerful, lets you control values on the shader. What's new is that you can now control more than one shader at once. And so you can put more shader controllers here. This lets you do cool stuff like having one curve modify shader properties on multiple shaders or multiple materials. And this can be very cool if, let's say, you have a character. The last use case that I've seen with that, there was a character that is made with spine, and so it's multiple parts and heads and arms and legs, and the team wanted to have the character blink when getting damage, and that meant having multiple shader controllers, one for each part and one feedback for each, so that was complex, and this simplifies, of course, that workflow. And maybe to finish on, I'm going to create a new class and show you some of the new stuff code-wise, what has changed in the API. So I'm going to call that test and open that. And for some reason, my editor is on a very fast screen. All right. So I'm going to create a method that does nothing, and we're not actually run that code, so it's just to show you the stuff. I'm going to make that bigger, maybe. All right. So one thing that got requested quite a lot, and I think it's a very good addition, it's the idea that sometimes you want to be able to disable an entire feedback, a type of feedback at the application level. Maybe you don't want haptics at all, because in your settings menu, you have a toggle that says, I want haptics, I don't want haptics. You want to disable sound, you want to disable screen shake. So let's go with screen shake. And because, some people, they get sick because of screen shakes, it can pose accessibility issues. So it's something that you might want to expose and be like, yeah, I think the game is better with screen shakes, but you can disable them if they don't work for you. So this is now fairly easy to do, and you can do it by going MMF and then the name of your feedback that you want to impact. So in this case, camera shake, all right? And you can just go feedback type authorized equal false. And if you have that, like maybe at initialization somewhere, this is going to set that flag for your entire the duration of the scope. And next time you try to play a camera shake, well, just silently, nothing will happen. And you can do that for everything. So you could do it if you want to go full camera shake and kill all shakes. You will probably want to also do that. Do import source like that, and you could also consider that lens distortion is a type of screen shake. So basically you can have control now over individual feedbacks at an application level. So that's pretty cool. What else is new? Yeah. So now let's say you have a public feedbacks or MMFPlayer. Let's use the new stuff, but it works for both. My player like that, caps. So anywhere in your code where you have that reference to your player, you could go my player.elapsed time, and that will give you the time spent playing that feedback. So since it started playing, so let's say you have a sequence that lasts for maybe 3 seconds, you could have a coroutine or an update loop somewhere that looks for that. That's a new value that is exposed. And the other one is times played, sorry. And this one is the amount of times that this feedback has been played. So it keeps track of that for you. Can't really think of a use case right now, but maybe you will. And while we are in the code, another thing you can do now is Sound Manager. Nope. Sound Manager. Like that. It's not working. And there may be a good reason for that. Because I was missing a using, I think. So Sound Manager dot instance dot has sounds playing. Yeah. And has sounds playing is going to take a track. So you can say maybe has sounds playing on the music track. And this returns a Boolean. And so you can do stuff like if and so this is gonna run that code only if there are sounds playing on the music track. This was heavily requested for some reason. Not exactly sure why I didn't put it in the API from the get-go, but now it's fixed. And there are a lot of other new API changes, all documented, of course. And I encourage you to go check the release notes to see all the other cool stuff that I didn't have time to put in that video. But it's getting late and I need to do other stuff. So I hope you learned something new today, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.